For everybody.
Got it.
Lovely. Okay, let's get into it. So, really good news for all of us is that we're not going to stay in a deficit every single day for the whole 6 weeks. And we're going to start introducing from this week the power of refeed meals. And let's go into what that means. It's incredibly good news. I did personally do it on the weekend, not by choice, but that's what happened. But we'll go through what a refeed meal is. So days are strategic nutritional approaches designed for you guys to be able to stay in a calorie deficit and actually get results without going too crazy. When you're in a prolonged calorie deficit for fat loss, your body can experience various challenges, including increased cravings, slowed metabolism, potential muscle loss, and many other aspects. Refeed days address these issues by temporarily increasing calorie intake, primarily through carbohydrates. So basically, what that is saying is that every 7 to 10 days, which we're going to go into, we are going to actually shift our calories back to maintenance, and you're allowed to eat maintenance or slightly above, which puts you into a surplus, which is technically 500 to 750 calories more than what you're currently eating right now. And if you think about how much food that actually is, that's a huge, huge one extra meal. Then there is a particular way to actually do this in a smart scientific way, which we're going to go through. And then there's another way, which is a much easier approach, which is much more lifestyle friendly and psychologically friendly as well, which is also going to be okay. And we're going to go through that. So the increase serves many purposes. Managing cravings by providing a controlled increase in calories on the refeed days can help satisfy intense food cravings that often accompany strict dieting, which a deficit is. Boost in fat loss. These higher calorie days can enhance fat loss by preventing metabolic adaptation and maintaining a higher overall metabolic rate. So, in other words, it's like that equation where the people that only eat, say, they skip breakfast, they skip lunch, and then they have the one dinner, and you know that they're having like a normal sized meal, and for some reason they're still overweight. And you're like, how is this person overweight or larger than they should naturally be in an unhealthy way when they're really only consuming like 900 calories? And what happens is the body gets so used to eating such little amounts of food that it goes into the survival mode. And I don't know the scientific aspect of it completely, but it goes into survival mode and it goes, all right, I'm not getting fed enough. So I need to hold on to as much, usually it's fat, as possible. So that way I can actually survive and function because I'm not being fueled accordingly. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be increasing the calories, and then we're going to be allowing the body to be like, oh, what's this? Why am I getting more food? Okay, I better get rid of this because we're going to go back into a deficit, and then it will come back on again and it will keep working. Um, there's also replenishing of the glycogen stores in the muscles, which is increasing carbohydrates, which helps to restore depleted muscle glycogen, improving workout performance and recovery, especially if you're on low carbs. Psychological relief is about basically, if you were to think right now that if I said we were doing a 42-day challenge, and let's just say we're doing double that because some of us will be not through the shred, but we'll be following on particular parts of this challenge after the 6 weeks. If you were to say, cool, I'm going to do this for 100 days, there's no way in hell you're going to do it in a really good way and stay consistent because it's so big. So when you get told that, okay, cool, 6 days out of the seven, I'm going to be really good. And then on the seventh day, I'm going to allow myself to eat a lot more normal food and a little bit more. It makes it a lot easier mentally and psychologically to actually be really strict on the 6 days. Would everybody agree with that? Being told you get a
Mhm.
whole day, say Saturday, you're like, cool, I can actually go out for a beer or a wine and I can actually eat a little bit extra, or I can go out for one meal where I'm not even counting it and have a glass of wine. Would that make the rest of the week substantially easier? Just give us a nod.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
even for me. Pity we didn't do this before grand final, right? For some of you. Now, while we use refeeds in a deficit, metabolic adaptation, prevention, we just don't want the body to be like, to lock up and not allow us to lose weight. And what can happen sometimes is the numbers, you're eating a deficit and for some reason the weight's just not moving. And eventually you can't keep dropping. So we will drop, but you can't keep dropping those calories to the point where it's in under the thousands because you're not going to function and the body's going to do the opposite of what we're actually trying to do. Hormonal balance is part of it as well. So calorie restrictions can lead to a decrease in leptin levels, a hormone that regulates hunger and metabolism. So Em, you're going to be going on to refeed day probably tomorrow and a rest day. Refeed minerals, particularly those in high in carbohydrates, can also help leptin levels, improving metabolic function and reducing hunger. Glycogen stores get replenished, psychological and muscle preservation because we don't want to lose too much muscle. Now, benefits, improve recovery, mental relief, and preventing the fat loss plateaus. How we structure, and this is the important part. So, as I said just before, there's the 100, like the most amazing, I'm a like a person that does everything to a T version, and then there's the normal person approach. Okay, the person that does it to a T, the actual way of doing this is to increase our calories from deficit to maintenance, which is 500 calorie increase and a little bit more. Your carbohydrates, the number that you're chasing each day at the moment, we're actually going to 1.5 to 2 times that amount. So, for instance, if you're having, say, you consume 1,800 calories a day in your deficit, your carbohydrates are roughly going to be between 300 and 400 grams. Your protein will stay the same, and your fats are going to decrease. So, and I'll help us out with this afterwards as well. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to increase our calories to maintenance. We're going to switch those macros and those percentages we had before and try our best to get it on the grams. And we might not be able to do that on MyFitnessPal. I might have to figure out a way to do that online because you have to pay the MyFitnessPal premium. And I don't need you guys to do that by any means. But if you have done that, you can actually alter the grams, not the percentages. And what we'll do is we'll keep the protein level the same and we would increase our carbohydrates and decrease our fats. That is the proper way of doing a refeed without it becoming a cheat meal. The other alternative that we can do is instead of worrying about the carbohydrates and lowering the fats, the other way we can do this, and if it means that we're going to be more accurate during the week, is simply on a Saturday or a Sunday, or whenever you were needing it, and I'm going to go through that shortly. We increase our calories to maintenance, and you're allowed a little bit above maintenance, and you can do it any way you like. Just make sure you get your protein. And what that would mean would be I have my normal protein throughout the day, and then I go out for dinner and I have a glass of beer, like a glass of wine. And that's going to put you out of your deficit for that day. And the difference as to why it's not going to make any effect, it's not going to affect us, is that in our previous shred lives, okay, what we are doing on this one day, once a week, is most likely what you did every day, or at least more days than not. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
So we're going for a day where we're going back to how we used to be, except we're going to actually make sure we get enough protein, and then we've got 6 good days where we're actually going to slam it. All right. So, example, we've gone through that part. How many refeed days? Now, because we're in a 500 calorie deficit, which is classified as aggressive, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 calories a day is a deficit from our maintenance. It's roughly every 7 to 10 days that you would have one of these days. If we were in a smaller deficit of 300 to 500, it'd be one every basically 2 weeks. And total for the 6 week period, 1 to 2 refeed days per week, resulting about 6 to 12 refeed days in total for the 6 weeks. All right, is everyone with me still? Give us a nod.
Yeah.
Is everyone liking this news? And does anyone know anything about this other than cheat meal? Because Emma, I feel like you know a bit about this, eh? Yeah. Okay. Now, signs that you need to have a refeed meal. Emily, put your hand up. Joking. All right. So constant fatigue and low energy, increased hunger and cravings outside of what you're normally experiencing just because we are in a deficit. Plateau in weight loss. So if we stop losing weight and that number is just hovering at the same and you know that our calories are right, you've had a check-in call with me and I've checked your macros and I've redone your macro calculation for your new weight and we're still not losing weight, we need to go back to eating more and then we can pull it back down again. Poor workout performance and recovery and mental and physical burnout. So if we're experiencing any of those, that's your body telling you it's time for you to have a refeed day. If you're not feeling any of these, I would suggest every 7 days or one day a week, same day each week would be great. You choose to do this. Otherwise, you can basically, you've got the power to do this whenever you need. And this is where the onus comes back to you to be like, am I actually presenting with some of these options? Or is this my mind being like, fuck, I just want to have a piece of cake? You know what I mean? Because realistically, after all of this ends, it's going to be up to you. And I want you to be able to feel confident in your decisions and doing the right thing. Okay. Now, common mistakes on a refeed day is overeating. So basically, we do want to avoid turning a refeed day into a cheat day. And what that means is that's in reference to keeping the carbohydrates to that level. For you guys, instead of a refeed day, I want it to be more so of a refeed meal where you can just eat whatever you want for one meal, and that should, in theory, sort it out. If you move into like making the whole day a refeed day, I would rather us hold off on that aspect until maybe week 4 when we've got some good results, we're feeling good, and then we can probably start playing around with turning off tracking calories for a whole day and then maybe a whole weekend and then just getting more congruent throughout the week. But for now, basically just make it one meal. In theory, we shouldn't be choosing junk foods for that a high carbohydrate refeed. We should be eating obviously vegetables, potatoes, things like that. But we're only human, and it's going to be more common through all of us to basically go out for dinner and have something yummy, which is naturally going to be higher in carbs and fats. Questions on that part so far before we move on? Does anyone have any questions? Em, any questions, Emily?
I don't think so. I think I understand that concept. I was just going to question whether it was just staying up to maintenance versus going above the maintenance. Like, how are we determining how much to raise that?
Yeah. So
By, like
what I
moderate.
yeah, what I'd like you to do in that day is to go set maintenance on MyFitnessPal and allow yourself 1 to 200 calories above maintenance or at maintenance. So don't go below maintenance. You're allowed a buffer of where you are now. Basically, you've got a buffer of 500 to 700 calories as an increase from where you are now, which is 200 calories maximum above maintenance.
And the other question was probably, why lower the fats? Could you not keep fats the same?
You could. I don't actually know that answer. But in theory, if you increase the carb, okay, because if you if you keep the protein the same, you increase the carbohydrates the same. If you keep your fats the same, it's going to make that surplus a lot more than 5 to 700 calories. Make sense? Because fats are going to be a lot more they've got a lot more calories. I think it's like 9 calories per 1 gram of fat or something
Yeah,
along the line.
yeah.
Lot more. That's if you're going with the proper approach of like fueling yourself with the carbohydrates, which is what it's meant for. If you're going with the approach of just going to have a nice enjoyed meal with some friends, which is more for the psychological aspect, that's going to be just as good as well. And then we get a chance on our Monday call to actually see and me hold your hand in a nice way and support you and be like, look, it's still working or it's not working. And then we can reassess on how to make a better decision next week. Okay.
Yeah. I do have another question, but I'm happy if you want to leave it to the end. And it's sort of around carb cycling.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait to the end for that one, okay?
Thanks.
So most importantly, we want to listen to our body, and we use the refeed days when we're feeling these signs. And try your best to not take the easy route, which our brains will want us to do sometimes, and stick to the one a week or one every 10 days. And we want to make it work for us. And that's why I went through the option of you can get quite scientific with it with the carb cycling and increasing the carbs and decreasing the fats, or you can make it work for you by just having a meal out once a week within reason and not going and eating a whole pizza and then a whole garlic bread and things like that. Okay. I'm going to upload this all into Shred School for us. more so you can actually go through this and have a read through, especially on how to structure it and the actual examples that we've got here. Does anybody have any questions about that? And does anyone want to talk about what they're going to implement as their refeed day and when are they going to do it? I'm going to ask you to speak first, actually, because from what I've seen, I think you're kind of at that stage. Because basically, it appears you're at the stage of either we decrease your training frequency just for a little bit, or we increase your food, or we put you in a refeed day. So, what's your game plan?
Never thought that far ahead, to be honest. I was just like grasping the concept. I'm like, I think I need to start bringing in. I've noticed my protein's been really high, but my carbs lately seem to be wanting those. They're going blowing out a little bit because I'm so hungry. So I want to just play around, restructure my meal plan. But whether I do that tomorrow and add the carbs in, if you suggest that.
Yeah, tomorrow I would like you to I'd actually like you to increase your calories substantially. You can keep your percentages or you can move over to high carbohydrate, which TD Calculator does allow you to do. And I would like you to eat maintenance as a minimum just for 1 to 2 days, probably one day, see how you feel the next day. And that's the other thing, right? If we do a refeed day well, the next day we should feel good. We should feel like we've got more energy, we're more ready to roll. I know that me personally, that like on a Sunday, if I go out and I have a beer and a bowl of chips, that the next day I'm like, sweet, I'm excited for my chicken, kale, and sweet potato and rice meal. Although I lasted 2 days and I was like, fuck, Lana, we're having turkey patties. So tonight we had turkey patties and rice and veggies. But yeah. Anyone else got some questions about that one? And we'll talk about carb cycling. I'll give you the room after the end and we'll have a chat about it.
Okay.
Kat, how you feeling about all this? Let's unmute you.
My daughter came in singing at the top of her voice before. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this. It's going to be hard to push myself to eat more, but I can see what you mean about how it works. So
Yeah. Me personally, I've actually never personally done a structured refeed meal where I've tweaked the macros to be carbohydrates and lower fat. I lose weight really easily, and I don't naturally move too far north of where I naturally want to sit. So to drop down to where I need to get to, it's not that hard for me. And I usually use my refeed meals as literally like, cool, I'm going to go, and this is being honest, I'm going to go to the local hotel on Saturday afternoon and I'm going to have a beer and I'm going to have a bowl of chips. And that's actually what I do. So
yeah,
it is going to be higher in fats. It is going to be higher in the carbs. And all I'm actually doing is just not taking it too extreme. And I'm just increasing my calories back to maintenance or a little bit above. And that seems to be enough to give me enough like oomph, more energy and more excitement to be stricter throughout the week. And it keeps me sane because I don't know about you guys, but like 6 weeks straight of being in a deficit is pretty hard. Like it's really hard. Does anyone here actually think that if we didn't have refeed days, that you would honestly be able to do 42 days straight in a deficit where like we're doing right now? Or do you feel like the wheels might start falling off towards the back end?
mine would be going out would be the problem. I can do it at home, but if you're going out, then
Yeah, and
we
that's
have
the
a
thing,
slot
right?
up.
So if we are in a deficit, it does make it challenging to go outside, not go outside. It makes it challenging to socialize. And that's an aspect of life that we need to work with, not against. Because it's all well and good doing this for 6 weeks. The real power is, can we continue on with most of it afterwards and then maintain our normal life, but with just making better habits? And that's where the refeed works really well because basically it's like, cool, Monday to Friday, I'm going to be really good. I'm going to make sure that like I'm actually just being conscious of what I'm eating and putting in my body. And I'm only eating what I need to get me the result I want. And then on the weekend, I can literally manage it. I'm not going to go so crazy to the other end, but I am going to have a little bit more flexibility and I might not track. That to me is a great result by the end of 6 weeks. Monday to Friday, you track your food or you eat the same foods you've eaten for the last 5 weeks, and then on the weekends you don't track and you're just smart and conscious about your decisions, most of the time that works for people and they continue to get progress. Freddie, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, pretty good. Sounds like a good night on Saturday at the local.
If you're there at 4:30, I'll see you.
Yeah, just close to the Curtislow Beach Hotel. That'll be right. I can listen to their music all the time, and I haven't gone in 2 weeks, so.
Yeah, and when I say local, I mean the local hotel in South Fremantle.
Got the one in Curtislow here. It's pretty good as well. I see you in South Fremantle.
Yeah. And has anyone actually, because I don't ban alcohol, which is probably very different for a shred for most people. I don't ban it. Has anyone actually managed to have a glass of wine, a beer, or a shot or whatever, and actually put it into my fitness pal and made it work for their day yet?
I
No,
haven't.
I just drank it.
I haven't put it in the app, no.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
I
Kat,
did past Blair track sometimes.
you what? Sorry, Em?
I have in the past tracked
Yeah.
a glass of wine or something like that.
Yeah. Sweet. T, have you done it?
I think in the past I have, but I mean, for me, alcohol is a real easy one. Like I could go 6 months without it without flinching. So that's an easy win for me, and I got to take him. So, yeah.
Sweet. And Kat, what did you say? You've drank it but not put it in?
Yeah, because it was grand final day, so it didn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wait, how crazy is it though, right? So you had alcohol on grand final day, you didn't count it. You probably were expecting on Monday to be like, fuck, I've gone backwards or not working. And then we check in and you're like, well, actually, I've lost a lot of
I
weight.
know. Well, that was my refeed thing, I guess, all those carbs, hey? So maybe it worked. But
Totally.
yeah, it was the one-off. I don't plan to do that regularly.
Yeah. No, that's okay. And Freddie, so in the past, what I've done I remember exactly, it was someone's birthday with my family, and they like to go to some dingy pub in like where is it? It's like near Coburn Central, the CY O'Connor or something. And I remember like it was a midweek, it was a Thursday, and I was like, fuck, I've got to go to this thing. I'm on a shred. This sucks. Am I going to go there and not eat any food and just show face and be miserable? And I was like, no. So what am I going to eat? So all I did was I kind of had a guesstimation as to what I was going to eat, and I was like, I'm going to have chicken parmigiana. And what I did was I literally went to my fitness pal on the day before, and I worked backwards. I literally put a chicken parmigiana that I could find on my fitness pal with what I thought was roughly those calories, and I was like, well, let's choose the highest one, 900 calories. And then I also then put in a pint of 50 lashes, and then I altered that day with the food I ate, which is usually like 2 snacks reduced, a little bit less carbohydrates, and I didn't have perfect macros, but my calories for the day was still good. And whilst I'm there, something's just reminded me, when we are chasing a deficit for your daily goals and tasks, your deficit is not, so if you eat your deficit number, we'll call it 1,500 calories, you get a point if you eat anything below 2,000 calories. Does that part make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah. So if your maintenance is 2,000 and your target is 1,500, if you eat 1,650, you are still in a deficit and you still get that point for the day and you've still done amazingly well. You're just not in as an aggressive deficit. Okay. Now, guys, while we're still here, is there anything you want to talk about while we're here? And what is something you'd like to learn about next week? If you would like, shoot me a message in the Facebook page with any topics you want to learn about privately, and I will put some things together and get some stuff together for these calls just to keep educating and creating some content for us all to put into Shred School. And Freddie and anyone else I haven't had our check-in with, can you do me a favor and text me a time for Friday, because Saturday I've got to go to a funeral tomorrow. And I don't know time-wise. I know it's at like 1 o'clock, and I don't think I'll be pretty good after that. So we'll do a check-in on Friday, or you can stay on this call and we'll get rolling with your check-in straight after this call. Okay. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. You're doing really, really well. And it's been so good to see such great weight loss in the first week. Stay with it. And I will see you all hopefully tomorrow morning because I'm teaching classes. And fun news next week, or for the next 2 weeks of next week, I'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all morning classes for the next 2 weeks because Ali is on holidays. In other words, if you're not in class, I'm going to know very quickly.
Very well.
Right, check on
Oh,
that
can
for
I just ask?